At the end of August, Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon presented her new regional government with a big smile and made it appear as a leader in a country that is as confident as it is environmentally conscious, because her cabinet now also includes two members of the Green Party. Sturgeon's National Scottish, what was it? Scottish National Party, sorry, listen too often to Boris. Like the Greens, is pushing for a new referendum for the independence of the 5.5 million Scots inside from the United Kingdom. Obviously, Scotland, which has made the preservation of its natural environment an integral part of its identity, is a foreign body in a conservative-ruled United Kingdom. The desire for independence seems only logical, and it is the first time in history that members of the Green have held government offices in the kingdom. It is ironic that their politics are gaining traction in Scotland. After all, their own strong and lucrative oil and gas industry plays a central role there, and is even one of the reasons for the country's striving for independence. But Scotland is changing. The participation of the Greens in the government, which is more a cooperation than a real coalition, was a consequence of the election in spring 2021, in which the SNP missed an absolute majority by just one seat. It gives the country new prestige because despite its oil wealth, it has a lot to show in the fight against climate change. Scotland covers 97% of its electricity needs with renewable energies, mainly wind and hydropower. Its heavy storms and choppy seas have made Scotland a laboratory for new green technologies, including tidal wave and floating wind power plants. Scotland has set ambitious climate goals and is legally committed to become climate neutral by 2045. The portfolios specially tailored to the two new Green government members are made for these times of a planetary climate crisis. Lorna Slater, co-chair of the Scottish Greens, became Minister for Green Education, the Circular Economy and Biodiversity, while Patrick Harvey leads the Department for Climate Neutral Buildings, Non-Fossil Transport and Tenants' Rights. There is also a minister from the SNP for a socially just transformation to climate neutrality. The cooperation agreement between the SNP and the Greens envisages expanding energy generation from the seas and from offshore wind power and investing at least €2 billion in non-fossil heating technology and, of course, energy efficiency. But Scotland's Greens image will remain a mirage if the new government fails to put an end to oil and gas production. And that would be a huge step for Scotland. For 50 years, North Sea oil exports have kept jobs and taxes poured into the UK budget. At the same time, they have allayed fears that poor Scotland would not be able to finance its spending should it leave the UK. This was what made the independence efforts possible in the first place. The SNP speaks to its supporters. Inside, always only about our oil. The emissions released by Scotland's petrochemical exports leave a gigantic carbon footprint. Oil and gas production have decreased significantly since the 1990s, but the amount was still 562 million barrels in 2019, the combustion of which produced 6 times the CO2 emissions produced in Scotland itself. The sales proceeds of around €26 billion cover a tenth of the Scottish gross domestic product. It is made more complicated by the fact that the Scottish government has no powers over energy policy. Only the British Parliament can decide how to handle oil and gas production. But Scotland could send a strong signal to London to stop extracting hydrocarbons from the North Sea, and there would be more reason to fight for independence. In Scotland, people seem to realize that their future does not lie in oil and gas. Surveys show that around two-thirds say the UK should cut back on North Sea funding and increase funding for green technologies. But no one among the ruling politicians, not even the smiling Nicola Sturgeon, is ready to name a date when the last barrel will be pulled out of the ground. The Greens had called for the prospect of new oil and gas fields to be abandoned, but could not prevail at this point. The hot potato is the huge 800 million barrels of North Atlantic Cambo oil and those deposits near the Shetland Islands, for which approval for production is pending. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is determined to do so, but Sturgeon says neither yes or no. She has refused several times to call for an end to new oil drilling in the North Sea. The Scottish Greens only brought them to the concession that they would have the licensing for Cambo legally examined. The Scottish section of the Friends of the Earth Environmental Protection Association rightly criticizes the fact that the exploitation of the existing deposits in the North Sea contradicts the Paris climate goals. Even if Scotland faces a difficult decision, it cannot put on a green cloak and hold onto its oil industry at the same time. It is about which Scotland they want to be. As long as our planet is warming faster than the Paris Climate Agreement foresaw, independence is not worth any price, but there should be another way for independence without relying on the oil. It's an ending resource anyway, and Scotland is so rich in new technologies for renewable energies that I see a big future there for Scotland. And with the criticism of the oil stuff today, doesn't mean that I don't think independence would still work. Independence was always a thing where we knew it would be complicated for some time afterwards. And rejoining the EU would be a good step for them then. But it takes time. But I still think, from my outside point of view and what I heard from family members from there, independence is still the path I personally support. I have no say in this, but I do support those who are striving for independence of Scotland. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.